finally over. As my Christmas gift to all of you, I'm finally going to review Chrono Trigger, one of the most requested games that I get. So Merry Christmas!
Who doesn't love Chrono Trigger? It's one of the most revered games of all time. If you had a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation when it was ported over, I had a PlayStation but didn't know about the port until it was released on the PlayStation Network. I haven't met a single person who's yet to say they didn't like Chrono Trigger. I really haven't played it myself either, except for until this review. I played it on an SNES emulator and stopped right when I got to the end of time. But later I bought it off the PlayStation Network and that's the version I'm reviewing. Chrono Trigger was conceived by the creator of the Final Fantasy series, Hironobu Sakaguchi, and the director of the Dragon Quest series, Yuji Horii, and Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama. They wanted to do something that hasn't been done before, so they decided to make it about time travel. It was originally planned to be part of the Seiken Densetsu franchise, which is pretty much where all the intended Final Fantasy spin-offs get deposited to, like Mystic Quest and the Mana series. It was under the working title of Maru Island and was planned to be for the Super Famicom disk drive, until Nintendo canceled that project and Square repurposed the game for cartridges and renamed it Chrono Trigger.
So, since I'm reviewing the PlayStation version, and Sony was originally supposed to make the CD add-on for the Super Nintendo, does that mean I'm playing the actual intended version?
The graphics are really good for the Super Nintendo. They're very bold and detailed, and for the limitations of the time, they did a really good job of displaying the atmosphere. The bright and vibrant year of 1000 AD or the bleak and hopelessness of 2300 AD. Going to these time periods really feels like those settings. The music is great, it's very epic sounding no matter what. Each note is perfectly hit for each occasion you come across. The overall presentation is a great one, but that's the one thing that Square Enix has always been good at. The game controls fine. I would suggest using a controller with an actual D-pad for better movement, as the controller I use for my PlayStation 3 is a third-party brand where the D-pad is more of a circle that rocks on an axis. There's a world map that you'll utilize to get from place to place. There's no battles here as everything takes place in real time in the actual areas. There's no random battles either. You can see all the enemies on the screen, so you're able to avoid them with enough skill. But there are times where you can and will be ambushed by unseen enemies. When either you or the enemies engage each other in battle, instead of being taken to a different screen, you stay locked in that area. The enemies will move around while your character stands still, which allows for some really neat strategic plans, like waiting for them to bunch together so that you can unleash an area effect attack rather than an attack that uses more MP and affects the whole screen. Combat is turn-based. When you start the game, you have the choice of active battles or wait. With active time battles, the enemy's time bar will fill regardless of your input, so the computer will just keep on attacking even if you don't do anything. With wait, the computer will not do anything until you make your commands, letting you take as long as you want to plan out your strategy, which seems kinda silly to have since you can pause the game anyway during battle. In battle, you can attack, use a technique, or items. The first and third are self-explanatory, but techniques are abilities that use MP. Some are just physical, others are element-based. There's lightning, fire, water, and shadow. Each character gets their own techniques, but they also get double and triple techniques where two or all three characters will combine their power into a single attack. You can only use double and triple techniques when the character's time bar is full at the same time. When it comes to enemies, some may have a very high physical defense, meaning you need to use magic attacks, or vice versa. But be careful what element you use, as some enemies can be healed by magic attacks that are attuned to the element you're using. The game is relatively easy though. If you find yourself having a hard time, you can change up your tactics and you should be all set. I didn't get a game over until I fought Magus. It's also a short game, clocking in around 15 hours, but it has a lot of replayability due to having several endings. And how you get those endings is by doing specific things before, where, and when you encounter Lavos.
And that's where this game really shines, the story. It's one of the best of its time and is often hailed as the reason why Chrono Trigger is one of the best games ever made. The story pays attention to such little details in ways that you would never expect.
The story has to deal with saving the world from a space parasite that intends to destroy the world and everything in the universe. The story has a heavy usage of time travel, jumping from place to place to get needed items and information to stop the Day of Lavos. Depending on the version, there's up to, I think 14 endings. I know the Nintendo DS re-release has an added ending, and some endings even have slight variations of themselves depending on the small details you accomplish. The characters are written really well. I love them all, and when playing the game, it's hard to choose who to have in your party and who to leave behind, because you feel a connection to the characters and want to see them through this ordeal. It's not like some JRPGs where you can just bench certain characters because they suck for whatever reason. You want all of these characters in Chrono Trigger to accompany you, and especially for gameplay purposes, as each one has their own strengths. There's no bad character. Each one is great. It's hard to choose who you want to keep in your party because I like having Marley and Robo, but I also like having Frog and Luca. It's a dilemma that's not easily solved, and it gets harder when you meet more and more people throughout time. Unfortunately, I was unable to finish the game due to preparing for Christmas. I got to the halfway point, but I do intend to see the rest of the game through because I want to see which ending I'm gonna get. So far, I think I'm getting the one that's considered canon, which I believe is the first one. But I did kinda sorta, but not really got an ending though. I was defeated by Magus, so he was able to summon Lavos. And while it's technically a game over screen, it's debatable if it can be considered an ending since you hear the roar of Lavos. If there's one nitpick I have with this game, it's the version that I'm playing, which again is the PlayStation 1 version. When it's going in and out of battles, there's a 3 to 5 second load time. It's annoying as hell and really takes you out of the game. But you do get to see some animated cutscenes which look awesome. But then it'll show you the same cutscene again, which seems really redundant. I've been told that the DS version is the best one, but I suggest that you play whatever version you can get your hands on that you can afford, as this game can be very pricey.
So is Chrono Trigger one of the best games ever made? I suppose. I really can't say because I didn't grow up with it, so I don't have that nostalgic feeling for it. But I will say that what I played, I really did enjoy it and would recommend it to anyone and everyone because it's really that good.